Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Our guest today is one of the key architects building the security foundations for our AI driven future. Ken Huang is the CEO and Chief AI Officer of Distributed Apps.ai. But for our audience, you'll know him from his work across practically every major AI security standard. He's a core contributor to the OWASP Top 10 for LLM applications, chair of the OWASP AIVSS project, and co chair of the AI safety working groups at the Cloud Security Alliance. He also contributes to the NIST Generative AI Public Working Group. And if you're an AppSec professional trying to figure out how to secure AI, Ken is one of the people writing the rulebook. Ken, welcome to the show. We are super thrilled to have you here.
Thank you, Ashimi and Sandesh. Yeah, nice to talk to you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to add to your intro that I might have missed?
Yeah, maybe I have just call for action. One is the AIVSS project we are doing. We are really in very deep into the weeds, and everyone you can contribute. It's not too late. We plan to publish next March before the ISA conference. So that's one thing. Another is I recently published a book called Securing AI Agent. That is really relevant for our conversation today. So yeah, if you guys interested, it's everywhere in Amazon, in Google Reads, Spring, everywhere. Barnes
Okay,
Noble.
we will make sure we add the link to the book in the show notes. And speaking about AIVSS, so we can just start with that. Do you mind giving our audience a breakdown of what AIVSS is and what is it supposed to address and how can people help?
Yeah, so that's a good starting topic. Yeah. So actually, I recently, just a few days ago, I was in Washington D.C. Have a keynote on the global OWASP conference, specifically for the AIVSS project. So really, the idea of AIVSS is really trying to give the especially the agentic AI, right? So our first deliverable was on the agentic AI. So to give some measure in terms of what kind of core risk uh, uh, priority, like to manage it, right? Because if you cannot really measure the risk, it's really hard to really manage it. So we put it into a bigger context of risk management to use NIST AI IMF framework. So one of the core tenant of NIST AI IMF framework is the measure. So the AI VSS fit nicely into this kind of component. Uh, we actually started this last year through a cross-industry effort, uh, trying to identify the some top agentic AI security risks. So we come up with 10 that time, but I think we should add more. So we kind of change the name from the top 10 to the core agentic AI risks. And we actually ask another project to focus on the top 10. So this is, we have the agentic AI core risks, currently 10, we will add more potentially because it's always innovate very fast, And then we measured using CVSS kind of vector string to measure it, but CVS is not sufficient, right? It's really deterministic. It measures the code and the configurations. It cannot really measure the autonomy, the non-deterministic nature of the agentic AI. So we kind of add the agentic AI risk factor on top of the CVSS. That's what is the agentic AI um, VSS score. Our version 0.5 published few months ago. We have few revisions and internal review and also public review. So, and then we actually add one is more called SSVC, It's more focused on the stakeholder, like it's more it's decision matrix based. So if you look at the AIVSS, it's a quantitative, right? It's using the scoring, its number, and SSVC, it's really based now on the decision tree. So it's more qualitative. So we have both. I think at least the AIVSS document will be published next March. We hope also we can have this SSVC published simultaneously, but we have people from CMU, the SEI from CMU, Carnegie Mellon University participate, and from some top companies also participate. So hopefully we have enough kind of contribution that we make it as the first draft.
Yeah. No, that's great to hear, right? And I kind of love how much importance governance is being given, at least in some circles, for AI. I think I see a lot of hope in all these standards coming and defining how we should think about security. But one of the challenges we've had with CVSS is how hard it has been to measure. It's a very robust framework, for example, but it's really hard to measure, really hard to apply, and there's a lot of inconsistency in applying CVSS, and that's for a deterministic framework. And now we're talking about something similar for like an AI framework where agents are non-deterministic. Things can change over time. You can swap out the model can be upgraded, and now the whole agent is a different beast altogether. How do you kind of envision enforcement or even measurement on a day-to-day basis for AI VSS, and how would it be different from CVSS? Because we all, I think, started CVSS with the best of intentions, but it's already become too complicated, too hard to use. And how do we kind of avoid that trap on day one with AI VSS, in your opinion?
Yeah, I agree with the assessment. Although CVSS is built into major security tools, crawlers or sneak, or you name it, right? Many people use it with always another view, like adapt to their own environment, right? CVS is okay, but it's based on ordinal number. Ordinal number, its problem is if you give a number 6, and then the jump between 6 to 7, and also jump from 8 to 9 is maybe not even. Right? How do you actually measure it, right? So this is more like is a challenge for the like you said, for deterministic system. But in non-deterministic system, we still need to measure it. But if we really want to say it's measured, really, we need to give a score. Right. So CVSS, it's also not really like perfect. It's still a very good starting point. That's what we go back and forth. Eventually, we think some people said we should get rid of it. Right? We do have some of members say that's the baggage you don't have to carry. But I think our view is this, right? Agentic AI system, although it's non-deterministic, majority of component is still code deterministic, and we still need to leverage it, right? So this is a starting point, and if we talking about the non-deterministic thing, that's what actually the core component of our IVSS document is really look at the agentic AI risk, like amplification factor. If you have autonomy, like depends on the level of autonomy. If your autonomy is non-existent, that's not really agent, right? So that's maybe to just fall back to traditional CVSS. But if you give a little bit of autonomy, but it's a kind of co-pilot, we call the co-pilot version, right? And then you have a little bit of more control instead of a co-pilot with human. You may have a policy guarded, and then you have full autonomy. Full autonomy is dangerous, right? We're still not there yet, but you can still envision it's very possible in the future. But all this is a different risk factor, and you should take this into consideration. Somehow give a score. It's not perfect. I will have to agree. That's not perfect score, but it's actually give people a framework of thinking, right? Another example, like if you have tool use versus like if you're just using one tool versus many tool, it's hard in terms of how you measure it, right? But at least it give you from risk management perspective, say, okay, I have so many tools to use. I have so much autonomy. This is what kind of risk I should take care of as a top, right? So so that is, I think, the contribution from this document.
Yeah. So I think the last point I'll make is I kind of agree with you. Right. The only worry I have is, let's say there's a prompt injection which lead to unauthorized access and therefore leading to a sensitive data leakage. And I'm an application security professional. Now I have to have a CVSS score and an AIVSS score, and then consuming another score now in addition to, because just an AI basis score will not be enough, because there is general sensitive data leakage here as well. So now I'm worried that we're going to have two scores, 9.8 and 6.7, and we're like, okay, what do we do with this, right? And I think I don't think there's any way to solve it from today, in the sense that I think it's how adoption happens and how kind of best practices evolve. But yeah, that's kind of one thing I worry about. But you're right, there's no other option. Like we've got to go down this road and then figure out best practices on how to do it. But I do feel that we might be making secure. I dread looking at pen test reports with 3 more levels of scoring going forward.
Yes, I agree. There's so many different approaches in terms of scoring system, like right. Even we like do not leverage CVSS. That's also people still use CVSS anyway, right? So leverage or without leverage, it does not really give additional load. It's an additional load for the agentic AI that from risk management approach that AppSec team need to be careful with, right? If you build the agentic AI system, right? If you're not, then yeah, don't care about this score, right? So
Yeah. I think I totally agree with Ken, and I think previously I was also of the opinion that we should not have multiple scores. But I think as I've been playing with agentic systems and how they overlap with some traditional systems, I think it makes sense to provide scores in the sense that, look, this is what your application brings risk to an organization, and let the users decide which score they want to consider. So for example, if it's an AI native system, right, obviously there's going to be some traditional components to it, and there's going to be agentic components to it. So if we have two scores, right, and if the AIVSS score is higher, let's say, as compared to CVSS, that will clearly show that the agentic components bring more risk to that overall system as opposed to the traditional components. And I think that's still very valuable because like agentic systems bring totally different risks, like prompt injection, MCP attacks, right? Like we are still trying to figure out how the hell do we even protect against these technologies. So I think there's some value here. And I think the other point I wanted to make was again, in my experience, right, like having these sort of scores and frameworks just helps to start those conversations. Like, how do you even discuss a risk with people who don't understand what risk is or what these systems are? So yeah, I think it's in the right direction. I think only time will tell how this kind of matures and how well adopted it becomes. But yeah, no, I think I have to appreciate all the efforts Ken, you and your team have put towards this framework and standard. Like, we've all been familiar with CVSS, and I am personally looking forward to how AIVSS can also help us.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, help us. Yeah, maybe review it and give us comments and contribute. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. No, that was, I think, a good starting. I think AIVSS is something that has been on the top of my mind, so that was good. All right, moving on. The next thing I have for you. So you wrote a fantastic but very provocative article for the CSA where you state that traditional IAM systems like OAuth and SAML fall short and are not designed for AI agents. That's a pretty bold claim, Ken. So for the AppSec engineer listening who just finished implementing an OAuth 2.0 flow for their microservices, why are they already obsolete and what should they do about it?
So I agree it's a bold claim, but even the original author of OAuth, Dick Haddett, agree with me, right? He also wrote a blog post after we, our blog post, right, about in LinkedIn, says that's like when they build their identity provider system, Hero, and also MCP server, they find that the OAuth is not enough. But I think the best way to look at is from example, right? Yeah, I use, for example, the Zapier, right? Zapier MCP server, it's exposed a lot of tools, which is good. It's example is one Google Doc. You configure it, and then it allow you access to the Google Drive, the whole drive. You cannot say you can only access to this document. So typically, for if you implement OAuth flow, you as a developer, you register your application with auth server to say, I'm the auth server, I will have access to this resource, and then get registered, approved. It's all in deployment time. And then during the runtime, it will enforce it, right? So this is good for the web application, which is on behalf of the human. Agent is different, right? Agent, it's you give a task, it need assume subset of human identity. Maybe example is if you ask a HR agent to browse the resume database and find the best candidate and give a phone call. And then you give the subset for your HR humans privilege to this agent to say you can only have access to the resume database and make a phone call. You cannot have access to the salary database. That's example, right? It's like if it assumes the whole human identity, that's too coarse-grained. That's not good enough. And also, sometimes it's also too restrictive because if the agent, especially in multiple agent system, and the whole thing is multiple agent system is the future, right? A single agent system does not really work. So in multiple agent system, this agent kick off the task. Again, example is this resume database with this HR agent. And then maybe the phone call should not be this particular person, maybe another person, right? And maybe there's another agent need to do some background work. That's another agent. So all those has a different agent doing the work, assume different kind of identity, really dynamic task scope. So the key thing is the current OAuth is session scoped. It's time-based. You can always use a refresh token to refresh, right, to get the access to continue. And it's additive, like once you get the access, you have the access, and you can add it through in deployment time. It's not that like a dynamic enforce the for the agent to restrict based on the task. So the agent is really really it should do is it should remove the access once it's done the task. So right, it's not really session based. It really is task scope. You finish this task, you don't have access. Next time you should request for permission again. So you need a dynamic policy. So there's quite a few, but just to summarize the if the two most obvious point, which Dick Haddett and also Microsoft, the head of the agent ID, right, also agree with us, is first, it's the coarse-grained access control. It's session scoped, right? It's not task scoped. Second, it's really used for single agent system. Right? If it's a single agent system, you kind of still can do it. In our paper, we also discuss about that, right? But in multiple agent system, certainly you cannot. So that's
Yeah.
why you need a new approach.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point, right? It kind of reminds me to the days when we went from OAuth 1.0 to 2.0. When around the time 1.0 was gaining momentum, we kind of had mobile-based authentication, and we could not have people enter their passwords every 30 minutes. And that's kind of when we came up with access tokens and refresh tokens, and OAuth 2.0 adoption took off, right?
Yeah.
You're someone who's worked with so many standards and worked with so many organizations. Do you think the right approach here is to build a OAuth 3.0 almost, which can work in a multi-agent environment, or do we need like a AI OAuth, which is like a separate standard, separate way of looking at it? Um, and like I wonder. I mean, how do you think about how the industry / how the community should respond to this point? Because you're 100% right that the current ways of authentication will not probably scale for multi-agents.
Yeah, so we put our papers there. Many people reach to us. We need a new approach, right? So I would say also Dick Haddett, who is the original author of the OAuth, also has a kind of proposal there. I took a look. It's quite good. Maybe I can send the link after the podcast. Um, so I do believe that there's already 2.1, right? But 2.1 is PXC is good. The right PKC for the code exchange it's good. Especially for continue validate that you prove this code from client side. But there's still not enough, right? So 3.0 maybe should be AI OAuth, maybe, yeah, for agentic AI OAuth, right? Because it's completely should really do it for the agentic AI workflow. That is not really the OAuth workflow, right? OAuth, like OAuth flow, you can have a 2-leg, 3-leg, all this discussion in the past. It's really for the web applications, for single agent, right? Web application, not multiple agent. So yeah.
Yeah. I think there's also another advantage of sort of moving away from OAuth, which I think gets missed. Like somehow is this concept of autonomy, right? Like or the agency of agents. Like if you really want a multiple agentic system to operate at their full capacity, right? To be fully autonomous and kind of operate with more like agency, the traditional OAuth like session scope tokens will not work, right? Like if you've already predetermined that these are the access you're going to have, right? And if the agent is capable of doing more, then you're really kind of restricting what the agent can do, right? And I think that's what the new standard should also aim for is how can we explore, right, different standards where agents can sort of operate safely and securely. Obviously I think security is the utmost important thing, but also give them the agency of being able to explore ideas which otherwise wouldn't be possible either by human beings or with more traditional based systems.
Yeah, that's
It's
why
interesting. Yeah. Sorry.
intent is
So you're almost saying you should have an auth agent which is constantly figuring out how
Yeah,
much auth other agents should have. Okay.
that's right. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's like I don't know if we need
yeah.
another agent for that, but it sounds like so. Like Ken mentioned, right? Agents are capable of doing multiple things, right?
Hmm.
And the access controls and all of that should be based on what they're capable of and what we want them to do, right? So if we predetermine certain access controls, it's kind of not really building an agentic system, if you ask me, right? So yeah, I think
Hmm.
there's something there. My thoughts are still very raw at this point, but again, based on my experiences of building multiple multi agent systems, I feel like they need the agency to be able to do their task, right? And this is one way to do that securely. Can I think you were saying something as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So the current OAuth or SAML or the system, it's either too restrictive, which kind of restrict the agency, or it's too coarse-grained, which it give too much, right? So that's I think that's not the fault of the the standard, because it will use the very well for the Web 2 or the current internet, right? But if we talk about agentic web or agentic economy, we certainly need a new one, which what you said, allow the agency, but it's really the intent. You have to check the intent always, right? So that's
Mm.
is I think the Google's agent payment protocol trying to move this way, right? So you have the mandate, you have the merchant mandate with the digital signature. So you sign it, you validate it. So even you have the agentic behavior, you still check the mandate. So you cannot like say, okay, so you have both the merchant mandate and also the purchase has also mandate to say, I only will pay this iPhone for $1,000. Digital sign it. Once you give me this iPhone, I will pay it. So the agent cannot really do, right, because the agent eventually have to always check unless you bypass that. That's also, it's possible, but so that's why I actually wrote a paper about how we can actually securely use agent payment protocol, right? And then the payment is it's really for the payment, right? So the mandate is also the merchant will send you this once they receive this, right? It also has the digital signature, so you can always, if it's not really give you, right, you can always. So that's is really give a kind of deterministic outcome based on non-deterministic agentic systems. I
Hmm.
think this is maybe the way forward, and yeah.
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 It's actually really interesting. Sorry, I when you said that, I thought the one thing it reminded me of is how there are parallels to this almost in the world of privacy, where whether you are, what you do with the data you collect depends on the intent of why you collected the data. Right. So, of course, privacy systems are not as robust and are not as ephemeral as agents are, but even there the idea always is the control depends not just on the action but the intent of the action, right?
Yes.
So right, and I think so that it's really interesting about, hey, how can we bring that into authentication now, or access control more generally, to say, hey, you will get this access, but you have to show your intent, and then there's almost like an intent to access control mapping. That's definitely interesting. I'd love to read that paper. I kind of feel like the show notes of this episode will be very, very long, which is very good.
Okay. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I also have to say I think intention matters. Like, I mean, I trying to get a little bit like philosophical here, but I think intention matters with whatever at least I try to do, and I think we are heading in the right direction. I feel, especially with authentication and all of this stuff. And speaking about agentic commerce, I think Ken, you hinted about how there's going to be systems in the future where agents are going to transfer payments and do all kinds of these fancy things. I mean, I'm excited and I'm also nervous because this whole agentic commerce kind of scares me because we haven't yet figured out how to solve for a traditional payment based systems. Now you add agents to it, give them some autonomy, and we basically have a system that if not controlled properly, it can get really bad really fast. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to how this space shapes up. Speaking about Google's protocols, right? Like there's Google has released ADK, right? The agent development kit. They also have A2A or agent to agent protocol, which again kind of uh, sort of goes with the agentic commerce which we are speaking about. So when we basically have agents talking to other agents, right? Are we just creating a new, very complicated set of API security problems? I know we spoke about authentication, right? But are there other kind of issues that we should be aware of? I know there's agency related stuff, but is there anything else that we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I would say the traditional like API security, the BOLA, like broken object level access is still exists. So addition, certainly, look at the OWASP top 10 for API, it's still, right? What I see is that's why we write paper about how do you discover, right? So we have agent naming service, like you discover the agent. And then actually after wrote this, like once we discover, can we still trust its capability, like its quality of service, right? So the first paper we published, it's also OWASP published it as well. We publish with archive as well. Is really you discover the agent and then you can use it, and GoDaddy actually implement our paper, right? They have the press release. Um, and then we have another paper say, okay, once you discover your agent, you use it, and how do you know it actually do the work that you ask? What if it has a rugged pull? That's not in traditional API, right? So if you have a rugged pull or you maybe have poison your agent cards, uh, right? Other people do like a zero font, invisible text for prompt injection. How do you deal with that, right? So that is why we have another paper called, it's also published with archive. It's called Agent Capability Discovery and Negotiation protocol. So once you have the negotiation and the binding also, right? Digital binding, then it's very important to have a digital signature, right? So you can validate that it has this capability, it has this quality of service. So just go beyond your traditional API security. Um, and I think this tool, especially this tool, is really important. How do you discover the A2A agent? We provide the protocol independent approach, right? You can have A2A agent or ACP agent. There's so many. I think at least 100 different protocol on the agent communications. With traditional also there, yes, right? So, but I think A2A will win. I do see it gaining a lot of momentum recently. I see SAP actually just recently releases the A2A agent, and yeah, the other company I think they are working on. So the agent cards the approach, right, should be, but yeah, how can we actually make sure the agent? Another thing, the agent is you can think about not as API, it's a digital partner for you, right,
Mm,
or digital employee, right? You need, like if you hire a digital employee, if you internal agent to agent, right, you need onboarding the agent. Right? You need to host this different process. And
yeah,
if you do the partner agent, that's you onboarding the partner. So you kind of, it has its own autonomy, it's all this, right? So it's go far beyond the
yeah,
API security. And something we don't have answer yet. I also don't have answer. So the agent naming service and the capability negotiation and the banding protocol, this is the two things that we put up there, right? So hope people just
yeah.
raising awareness. People know that we need to take care of those at least.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. We also had Vineet on the show, your co-author on the ANS paper, and we spoke about that as well. That was a great episode too. I want to take a slight tangent and ask a different question, and then Anshuman, I know you have a couple more questions as well. Is that every paper you've spoken about in the last 30 minutes, and we're going to speak about in the next 15 minutes, has probably been written in the last 2 years. How on earth are you so prolific? How are you able to work on so many different aspects of this problem at the same time? I mean, do you have any
Thank
productivity
you.
hacks, or do you have an AI Ken who's basically doing all the work, and then the agent does all the work, and then you actually just show up here for interviews? How do you? I
So
mean, I'm really curious about how you think about and how you manage your
yeah,
workload here.
yes,
and and
that's a
and
good question.
before you can answer that, Ken, I know there's at least a handful of people who have the same question for you.
Right. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So I'm a curiosity-driven person. I am curious to all these topics. There's so many things I need to write. I just don't have time. So I still cannot catch up with all the AI latest thing, right? On the security, because I'm just not focused on just the security. I focus on the robotics. I focus on interested in the agent economy, all this. So this is one thing. Another thing is I actually write everything. Every day, every morning. I force myself to write something. So when my head is fresh, in the morning my head is good. Afternoon, gradually my I cannot really function well, so I take a walk, go to gym, right? So then after gym, my head is okay again. So then I maybe write more. But morning is my best time to write. And also I collaborate. Like Venice is super cool. It's lots of idea for the agent naming service is actually coming from him. Uh, I started the paper, but he lots of good new idea, right? Coming and especially the agent naming service. This is coming from Venice. So initially I did not call it. I called the agent registry or something, right? So so, so he said, we need to go back, right? We need to put protocol independent. I said, yes, it. Right. So that's good. Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing I would say is writing book is good. Writing book, you force yourself to thinking more systematically. That's much harder than just write a paper. So I force myself to publish maybe 1 or 2 books per year. And I started 2018, right? So now I have maybe around 16 books. So, yeah. So on the blockchain and the web, so it's in Chinese, English. One of my book
Mm.
actually, Beyond AI, was translated into Chinese. That was published in 2023. Um, I just went to China and have a talk about
Mm.
that book. So, Peking, Peking
You know,
University. Yeah.
talking about writing one book for the last 2 years, maybe Anshuman, this is the motivation
This
we
is
need
yeah, yeah.
to get forward.
No,
But yeah,
I'll just say, Ken, that I hope you're thinking about making your clones or mini Ken agents who can go and do the work for you, right? I think we are there yet, right? Where you just kind of give your brain dump and have the agent go and do things for you. So no, I think the kind of contributions you've already had, the kind of impact you've had across industry. Like I see you sharing these kind of uh, standards and frameworks and just kind of having that clarity, I think itself is something we need as an industry. I feel like people are still kind of debating whether AI is hype or not and all of that stuff. And just yesterday we saw the paper from Anthropic. This is all over LinkedIn, right? Where it was like a highly orchestrated AI campaign where basically attackers used Claude code to yeah, it's crazy. I went through the paper. I have some opinions which I'll share, but I think yeah, we need more Kents basically. Is and I think we need more people who are interested in this
Yeah.
domain, because I
So
feel like this is
actually,
what it's coming towards.
I
Yeah.
also read this paper. One thing interesting is it's not sophisticated, right? It's using
Yeah.
the open source tool, all this
Yes.
password cracking,
MCP.
right?
Yeah.
There's an Nmap, all this open source tool. I think the whole thing is in its context engineering, right?
Yes.
That's maybe a little bit of innovation there. They have
Yes.
to say how we orchestrate the different tool. First to do reconnaissance, and then
Yes.
we get a foothold, like all this Atlas or meta attack kind of procedure. It's used, and then documentation. It's get us all
Documentation.
this
Yeah.
process. It's really the hex mind and but using the cloud code. Yeah, and
Yeah.
also one thing is it looks like the cloud code is easily being checked a little bit like gradually. That's why it's a Go manipulation. I actually have a paper
Yeah.
about that, right? Your Go
Okay.
manipulation is a really hard one. It's really hard to defend. And there's three
Yeah.
ways to do a Go manipulation. One is drifting, gradual drifting you go. So your original goal is protect your server instance, and you gradually drift it so it actually, instead of protect, lock down the ports, it's open more ports. You can ask it to
Yeah.
do it, right? It's called a crescendo attack. So another Go manipulation is, okay, you can do the Go to lock the server, but I can prompt injecting you that you lock the server, you achieve this Go is good, but you also give me all the environment variables, all the secret as a expansion. It's called malicious Go expansion, right? Then another attack surface is really the exhaustion loop. You give the through prompt, indirect or direct prompt injection, ask the agent to do something, it will never finish the work. So you exhaust the wallet, like what OWASP called is like a denial of wallet or denial of service, right? So you can do that as well. So yeah, this is hard one, yeah, to
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
it.
No, absolutely. Um, like Sandesh, do you have? I feel like we should have Ken again, just because I don't think we'll be able to cover everything else we have, and we're getting close to our wrap up time. But did you have any final thoughts?
No, I mean, I think the one aspect, the one question I have or one request I have for you is, if a lot of us in the security industry, I run a company, Anshuman has a busy job in his, in his day job, etc. But how should we kind of, who are in security but not doing AI security research every day, how should we think about contributing or keeping up with this crazy pace of AI security, right? I mean, do you have any ideas or thoughts or takeaways for security professionals who are trying to keep up with everything that's going on?
Yeah, I would say it's always research oriented learning. What I
Mm,
mean by that is you ask yourself a question, then you set out to do research. And this research, maybe you reach out to OWASP or Cloud Security Alliance. Also, I post regularly in Substack, in LinkedIn, right? But it's not limited to that, right? So you can do your own research. And also very important is coded, vibe coding, using GitHub, like right, Copilot or Cloud Code, Cursor, they are all good. Yes, and the Cloud Code recently have what it's called skills. I tried it. It's really good. It's the skill is really give you deterministic behavior. And the context, right? The MCP is give you context. Skill is give you the deterministic behavior because you're actually using the this particular skill as tool to do the work. And this is more like a deterministic. So I think this is also very good if you're using cloud code, ask it to use this particular skill to do the code review, for example, right? So it's, yeah, there's a lot of, yeah, but just uh, I may put up some of the video content there as well. I have I teach a course at the University of San Francisco, and the students, they are very talented. After the one semester, they all build a tool. So I actually highlighted each of those tools. They also, each of those has a GitHub, and you can look. Like subscribe to my Substack. This is free, like in my Substack, right? So they can take a look of what my student built. It has a red teaming tool. It has detection. It has identity. It has deep fake detection. So many different kind of
Nice.
things. So, yeah. So
Yeah.
take a look,
We'll
and they should vibe coding also as well.
yeah we'll make sure we'll add your Substack link, your LinkedIn profile, everything else. So feel free to get a bunch of requests coming your way. But no, I think Ken, this has been awesome. I definitely feel like there's a few more things that we want to discuss with you, and I think we'll have you again. But this has been a very fascinating conversation. I look forward to going through all the papers you have discussed and mentioned. And again, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank
Good.
you. Thank you for
Yes,
being here.
thank you. I think a boring app is not a boring. So thank you. You guys
It
make
is
it fun.
it is boring to some people, like my mom, my dad, but I'm pretty sure for folks like us, it is not boring. So yeah, just a
Yeah.
thing that I have to give like Sandesh all the credit for the name, and I think it kind of sticks with what we do here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Yashima.
Thank you so much,
Cool.
Ken. This is great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. If you like the show, please share this with your friends and colleagues. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach Anshuman on Twitter at Anshuman_BH. That's ANSHUMAN_BH. And me, Sandesh, at Jubba on Jeans. That's JUBBAONJEANS. See you next time.